Another day, another name to break down in terms of the defensive coordinator search. This time, we're looking at former Wisconsin defensive coordinator and interim head coach, Jim Leonhard. This is a fan favorite. A lot of you guys really, really like Jim Leonhard. You like the idea and the concept of some of the things that you've heard reported about his scheme. And I'm here to tell you it's kind of a complex study here, guys, because there's definitely a lot of positives. There's definitely a few negatives I noticed from his scheme. But more than anything, what I'll tell you is he's multiple, and don't believe any singular report you're hearing about what his scheme is. All right, y'all. Let's jump into it. What's up, Cerebral Football fans? My name is Stephen Hyder, and this is Gate City Sports Channel. Woo, I'm kind of excited to do this one, man, because I got flooded with comments about this guy. But hey, Gate, can you break this dude down? Can you tell us about his scheme? So I'm going to start off by telling you I didn't have enough time, guys, to go through and watch like 4 games on 2022 season, 4 games on 2021, 4 games on 2020. Go back and like study 1 game in 2017 when he first became the defensive coordinator. I just didn't have that kind of time to devote to this just because of how fast Eagles are pumping out these names because they're time crunched with the NFL scouting combine just around the corner. That puts me in a time crunch, guys. What I will say is I went through and I watched Michigan State. I watched the Wisconsin versus Michigan State game because I wanted to see him on a big stage in a hostile environment on the road and kind of just how did things line up. I also kind of had insight that was a pretty good game. And honestly, it lived up to the billing. It was a really good game, and it gave me a lot to actually review and talk about with his system and scheme. So without further ado, Band-Aids off. Let's get it. First down, what did I notice from him? He did have a tendency, and it wasn't every single first down play, guys, but more often than not, when he was in first down, you saw single high coverage. Now, I will warn that most of the time that single high was in cover 3. He was trying to get more people in the box to defend against the run, and that's probably a smart idea because when you go look at actually his defense and their output versus the run, if you go to something like Football Outsiders and you study some of the underlying analytics, things such as the average line yards. So they're talking about filtering by the down, the situation, the level of competition. What is the average down yards you give up? So like 1st and 10 versus, 2nd and 7 versus 3rd and 3. Like they're filtering by these things. And they ranked 7th overall. They were tied for 7th overall in the nation with 2.22. This is a really good run defense, and I think some of that has to do with the way that they're playing the box on first down. Now, I will caution. I did see some too high at times, and they even got caught on the outside zone stretch play in a too high look. I think it's because they were expecting it to be a pass play and just probably an adjustment made from either the coordinator or from the quarterback that just basically said, okay, like we're getting like a quarters or a cover 2 type coverage here. We're going to run at this. So definitely you can see that some of the success makes a ton of sense to me. Going beyond just downs, I'll come back to second down, guys. Give me a second. I want to move in because we're already talking about the run and what I noticed. I got an opportunity to see 2 consecutive drives inside the red zone. One drive, spectacular, job by the defense, the run defense from Wisconsin, which goes in really to their power success rate. So this is filtering into those really tightly contested yard and down situations and how successful you are as a defense, which, by the way, it's really difficult to be successful in those situations. Ask everyone complaining about the Philadelphia Eagles 4th and, give me situations and how much they're complaining there. They ranked 25th nationally in terms of these really short yardage situations. They had a 60% power success rate. So I don't know exactly how they're skewing that. That means that they allowed 60% conversion or they were successful. I'm not too sure exactly on that one. Other than to say that no matter how you look at it, it ranked 25th. In this one, you can see a really, really good sequence of goal line stands in this game, and they did a heck of a job on the road, a noisy environment, noisy crowd trying to throw you off. They held, man. They held, and you could see that one of the things that personally, if I was in the front office and I wanted to talk to Jim Leonhard, I would want to talk to him about the way that he utilizes his down linemen, right? I saw a ton of, it's a 34 defense, but they play the overhangs. They play 2 overhangs, so you could call it a 50 front. You see a lot of that. They use their nose tackles. The guy that does, he's got 2 gap responsibilities. So there are some similarities to some things that we run here in Philadelphia, which I do think draws interest. But this guy was tremendously successful in the run game. And I do think that he's worth having in for a cup of coffee to talk. I mean, you look at their stuff rate by Football Outsiders, guys, 24.9% stuff rate. Number 6 overall. Their run defense was quite good at Wisconsin, man. He did a heck of a job there with that situation. Second down. This is where I think a lot of people will get excited when you got to second and long. Now, I will tell you that they did tend to drop into cover two and second and long situations, but every now and then, what you would see on a second and long play here is the creativity from the linebacker position. This is where you would see the stunts and twists from the defensive line, where you would see some concepts and some twists and things going on from your linebackers. You would see more of the pressure packages on second and long. I know you guys really want to hear that on third and long, but it's not what I observed from the film, guys. It was more so coming out of those second and long situations. I will say that he did a pretty good job of mixing between cover two. Like I said, it was a lot of cover two on second down, but you did see elements of like even some man coverage, cover one concepts mixed in with some cover three. But I will warn that while, yes, he played a ton of man coverage from 2017 to 2020, to give you an idea, if you go back and you look at the man coverage stats from 2020, Faion Hicks and Caesar Williams are two outside corners, okay? Faion Hicks had 195 snaps on the season, 44.6% of them out of man coverage. Caesar Williams had 219 snaps on the 2020 season, 42% of which were in man coverage. Compare that to 2022 stats. And even 2021, guys. 2021 is actually even worse. Ricardo Hallman, 195 snaps on the season, 20.5% playing out of man coverage, and that was the most on the team. And that's not great numbers, guys. Jay Shaw, 321 snaps on the season, only 16.8% of them in man coverage. Justin Clark, 125 snaps on the season, 13.6% out of man coverage. Cedric Dort Jr., 270 snaps on the season, only 16.7% out of man coverage. Alexander Smith, 195 snaps on the season, only 14.9% of which were out of man coverage. You can see the numbers here, guys. It wasn't as heavy man coverage in 2021 and 2022 as you could see from the stats I showed you in 2020. From 2017 to 2020, they played far more man coverage. The last couple of seasons, they've reverted more to a zone coverage scheme and system. Many ways of looking at that, guys. There are many, many ways of looking at that. One thing you could say is that maybe he just is very malleable and he will adapt his scheme to what the talent level is. I mean, if you just don't have the talent level to play man coverage, it is highly advised against playing that. Like, you need to have the talent on the outside of play man coverage or you're going to get eaten up. So I would just take a breath there, guys. Take a breath on that stuff. Realize that it depends, man. We don't know what this guy is. You're talking about making a jump from the college to the pros. You got to be careful, man. What a guy was in the past doesn't necessarily mean that's what he'll be in the future. I don't know, guys. I don't know what to make of that. I was going to say that from 2017 to 2020, he believed in a high man coverage percentage. And then from 2021 and 2022 seasons, his past two seasons, there's been a ton of zone. I would say his zone rate was that of Jonathan Gannon in the first season as a D coordinator here in Philadelphia in 2021. It was very, very similar, if you will, in terms of those coverage numbers. Third down. If long, I noticed soft zones, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to tell you the truth. I saw some too highs, coverage, situations with some soft zones. And, if you could defeat the pass rush and get enough time in the pocket there, it was fairly easy to defeat it. And there was a couple plays in that game, in the Michigan State game, to where I saw them easily defeat the zone coverage, to be quite honest. If short, I would notice that they would rotate. They would rock safeties, move the safeties, move a guy down into the box, get into like a cover three or cover one concept and get those extra defenders and extra body in the box versus the running game in short yard situations. Probably speaks to how successful they were. Now, I'll give you one more area of critique here, which goes back to our conversation in the red zone. I'm sorry I left it out originally, so let me return to the conversation. There was a situation to where they had a very successful red zone stop. They got the ball back. Their quarterback, Metz, ends up throwing an interception, right? So now they're right back in the red zone again, and they got to defend against it. It's a tough situation to put your defense in, to be fair, what I'm evaluating here. With that said, I will say that the eye discipline got caught. They got caught with the eye discipline, guys. You could definitely see that they get caught up on the motion, and then they hit them with a little counter action. The running back hits them with a counter. Easy walk into the end zone situation. Eye discipline. Got to be careful at the NFL level, man. We got a lot of guys at this level that like to use eye discipline. They like to use motion. They like to use movement. They like to use a lot of those pre- and post-snap things to mess you up. You're always going to have your Kyle Shanahans. You're always going to have those type of guys, right? Andy Reid did a pretty good job against us in the Super Bowl of using motion to defeat us, right? Sean McVay's a motion guy. So definitely eye discipline was something I did notice on the film where I was like, that's got to get – it's hard to judge it, man, because some of this has to do, coaches coach, players play. But the players on that particular down and distance and situation there did not do a very good job of understanding where you were and what you should and shouldn't bite on. So it's tough to say, guys. You know what I mean? I'm judging a single game, and I'm not a huge proponent, not a huge fan of doing that. With that said, he's young, 40 years old. He's creative, right? Innovative, comes up with some very interesting way, mixes up his coverage, isn't afraid to play zone, isn't afraid to play man, will stunt and twist his defensive line. He will bring pressure from the linebacker position. Like, he's young, he's innovative, he's creative. I get why they brought him in here. But I will caution this one thing. Sometimes during these cycles, and if you remember back when Doug Peterson was looking for, potentially bringing in a offensive coordinator back in 2020, which he opted not to do, he was interviewing some guys from the college ranks too. Remember, they went after USC's offensive coordinator to talk to him. Sometimes organizations will bring dudes in for a cup of coffee just to ask them what they're doing. They might just really want this young man in. I'm not saying this is what it is. I'm saying it's a possibility. They may want him in just to talk about what he does to get the best out of his run defense. The fact that he has very, very impressive underlying analytics and film when it comes to how he's playing a 3-man front or a 50 front, depending on how you want to look at those overhangs and what he's doing there. I mean, there's definitely some interest. I could see them wanting to know some things like that. So I will caution. A lot of interviews going on, guys. We already have another name leaked out, which is a tie to Nick Sirianni. And they're during their time with the Chargers. He's now the Michigan Wolverines defensive coordinator, so they're bringing him in for an interview. We got the Rams secondary coach in for an interview for the defensive coordinator. Like, I mean, it's moving fast, guys. So I'm trying to pump these videos out, man. But it's a lot to try to bring in and break down quickly. All right, y'all. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys really soon on the next video. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here.